Hey y'all, it's Farley with Writer's Edge Podcast, and today we're going to talk about open enrollment season. So today on the podcast, I have my good friend Jonnell Thurman with me. She is a nurse case manager, and we're going to have a conversation about open enrollment season. In case you haven't noticed, or you've been a lot busier at the barn than some other people, we are in the midst of open enrollment season for insurance. Whether it is through your work or through another company, or you or somebody in your family is going on to Medicare, it is that great time of year when open enrollment happens and you have all these insurance choices that you don't know what they are. You don't know what maybe is best for you, or maybe you do and you're one of the lucky few who can make those choices real quick. But the rest of us just kind of check the boxes and hope for the best. And honestly, that's a gamble. It's a gamble with your health care, and it's a gamble with your wallet. And so today we're just going to try to shed some light on some different things to look out for when you are enrolling in your insurance plan, and other things to think about. So welcome, Jonnell. Thanks for having a conversation with me today.
Thanks for having me. Are you going to tell him you call me Red? Because you know you're going to call me Red while we're talking. You know you will.
Yes.
Which is fine.
So, Red is one of my tribe members. Mm-hmm. And everybody that meets Jonnell through me only knows her as Red.
Correct.
Because she has red hair. Except for the times when she doesn't have as red a hair, and then people get real confused around us when I confusing. Go, hey, Red's coming. So you were correct. I will say, hey, Red, what do you think about this?
You will. So we got that established.
Okay.
We're good.
Yes.
We're good. So like Farley said, I am a registered nurse, and I've been a case manager for a whole lot of years, but I practiced most of my career in work comp. And the thing with work comp is usually what the patient needs, they get, because the insurance is going to pay for most anything that's basically reasonable and necessary. And a few years ago, I started being a case manager at a hospital. I work at a not-for-profit hospital, so a lot of our clientele, I would say, are at the lower, some of them are at the lower income levels. But what I noticed was trying to get these people safely discharged, either to home. Sometimes they go home with family. They might go home with home health. They might go to a skilled nursing facility to go ahead and get some more rehab, just not quite ready to go home, but really not sick enough to be in the hospital. They might go to what's called the inpatient rehab, where you're really concentrating on physical rehab 3 hours a day, like if they've had a stroke or some kind of maybe a traumatic brain injury, car wreck, things like that. Or even into long-term care, which is what most lay people call just the nursing home for long-term care, where they're going to go and live there. So what has been very eye-opening to me, a little bit frustrating, a little bit sad sometimes, is when people think because you have, quote, Medicare, that all your needs are going to be taken care of. And that's just not true. There are different types of Medicare. There's the main ones are A, B, and D.
Oh.
Bless you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. A deals with the physicians, pays for the physicians. B pays for more, am I saying this right?
So
is it the opposite?
So A is hospital.
A is the hospital.
Like you go in the hospital, you stay for however many days. And the way they calculate that on A is just like in our outpatient services, they do plans of care for 60 days. Mm-hmm. And so it's all done on a 60-day window. Mm-hmm. So And Part A, you have been paying for your whole working life. Mm-hmm. So you don't have to pay more for A. You automatically get it.
Right.
So that's A. Mm-hmm. B is all of your doctor visits, outpatient procedures, labs, blood pulls, things like that. Mm-hmm. You still have to pay for Part B. Mm-hmm. It has a small deductible on it, and after that deductible is met, it's at 80-20.
Right.
That meaning that Medicare pays for 80% of what is billed, and you're responsible for the 20%. Mm-hmm. The problem with B, though, that people need to realize, and I know I'm going through this with my parents right now as they are reaching Medicare age, that when you turn 65 to go on Medicare, and the numbers will vary a little bit on the age depending upon your situation, your retirement, yada yada yada. That's why you need to, when you hit, I feel like people, when they start hitting 60, they need to be having conversations about this so they don't miss these windows.
Definitely.
Because if we're both in the medical field and we still have to have somebody who does this all the time to say, nope, we have to do this, we have to do that. Anyway, you have a 6-month window when you turn 65. If you are not employed and getting your insurance through your employer, to get Part B. Mm-hmm. If you don't get it within that window, you can purchase it later, but you will have a fee. You will be penalized. It's a penalty fee, and you'll have it for the rest of your life, meaning you'll pay more than you would have.
Right.
You can still get all those benefits, but they're going to cost you more. So that is Part B. And then we switch over to Part D.
Right. Which
that
is for drugs.
Is your drug plan. And you have to have a drug plan.
Yes,
even
definitely.
if you are not on drugs, you have to have a drug plan.
For sure. And the drugs, a lot of people think, like I said, if they have A and B, they think it includes all the things, and it doesn't. Or if they think they just have, I've even had patients that just have A, and I was like, how do you just have A? So, but the drugs are, some drugs are horribly expensive, especially like insulin, inhalers. Some of those drugs, they literally might be, $800 a month. And if you're 65, a lot of people are on a rather fixed income, and who wants to spend $800 a month? So anyway, Medicare, the Part D, very important for your drug plan, for sure. Most people, it's beneficial to have what's called Medigap, or a secondary insurance that will help pick up whatever the Medicare does not pay for. So that helps you a lot with hospital bills, even outpatient surgery things, any kind of medical care. The secondary is very helpful. Now, there are Medicare replacement plans out. They look appealing because on TV they portray that it's the same type of coverage, that you get everything, and that it's way cheaper. However, I am learning that even trying to get people with home health or physical therapy or rehab or skilled nursing, there's a lot of the Medicare plans that they are not wanting to work with because the coverage, the reimbursement is very low. And so, if I can recommend something, it would be not to get some of those replacement plans, because you're just not able to get the services you need.
And that's where having this conversation before you have to make those choices,
for sure,
is very helpful.
Yeah.
Because right now, even if you're not anywhere near Medicare, the TV is being bombarded with all of the major insurance companies throughout the country. Do this Medicare plan, do this, and it's still your choice as a consumer.
Sure.
It's your choice on whether to go Medicare or go to one of these Medicare replacement plans. But as you were saying, 9 times out of 10, it's not the same coverage as Medicare.
For sure.
It looks real shiny and
It
real.
looks cheaper for your monthly rate,
Yep.
but you're not, in the long term, you're just not going to be able to get some of the things you need.
Because no matter what insurance we're talking about, you have to weigh the finances with the benefits.
Correct.
Because while it may be, and it's a gamble, right?
Yeah, it is.
Any insurance on anything is a gamble.
Without question.
And so, but you still got to outweigh the finances with the benefits. And for me, seeing both sides of healthcare as a practitioner and as a consumer, I'm always going to go the highest quality I can afford.
Right.
Even though I'm knock on wood, a very healthy person, I don't have a lot of recurring things that have to happen, and I get sick once a year maybe,
right.
and then do my regular checkups, but I'm still hedging my bets. If something bad happens, then I have the best coverage that's available to me at that time.
Correct. Yeah. There's also, and this is something I learned because I just never dealt with it, and I'm not of the 60-year-old age where I would start thinking about some of these things. But Medicaid for long-term nursing care, now this is in Oklahoma.
Well,
so
now, let's pause for a second and let's talk about Medicare versus Medicaid, and let's make sure and get that differentiation done, because if you're not in the business we're in, you may be going,
you think it's all the same.
It's all the same. It's got meta in it. It's just got to be, it's whatever.
Right. And Medicaid is based on usually your income, and it's like a sliding scale, I think, and it's not very much money that you can make at all to be able to qualify for Medicaid unless there are certain diagnoses like end-stage renal disease. If you need to go on dialysis, outpatient dialysis, I believe that qualifies automatically for Medicaid, I believe.
And that changes state to state.
State to state, it's different.
So,
which is another thing about Medicaid is, like if I live in Oklahoma and I am on Medicaid and I decide I'm going to go stay with my aunt in Texas for 6 months, my Medicaid does not transfer to Texas. So you have to plan ahead on those things, or your dialysis would not be technically covered in another state. So, or if you move to another state, you can't those are things you have to kind of plan ahead and get approved for Medicaid in that state as well. And it's all online, obviously, the different requirements and how to get your Medicaid transferred. And it's not something you do call on a Thursday and it's done by Friday. So those are just things that you have to kind of plan ahead for. If you are moving, or say you're at a certain age where you want to go move in with your children or something at a different state, then you would have to really kind of look into those things. And it's obviously something that you wouldn't be thinking about if you're having to make a big life change.
Right.
Like moving or having to live with your kids or whatever.
And where that differs from Medicare is a federal program.
Correct.
And so that transfers across state lines, even different from the private insurance, where in this situation we're talking about, where you're going to move for a certain amount of months, you've got to check on even private insurances for your in-network, out-of-network kind of things. And we'll kind of get to that down the line. So kind of back to the Medicaid thing and going forward with that conversation.
Yeah. A lot of the insurances will not pay for assisted livings. Because I think a lot of people also, if they're living in assisted living and then you have an incident like a stroke or anything that sets you back physically, you have to be at a certain level of, quote, independent living. You have to be able to kind of return to that, to be able to return to some of those assisted livings. And that was something else I learned, because you might have to go to rehab to be able to get back to that type of of level of independent living. Now, a lot of assisted living facilities have different levels of care, but they also cost more. So if you need a nurse to do this thing, just your medications, but then you need help taking a shower or things like that, then it's kind of different levels of care. Not all assisted livings have many levels of care, but a lot of them do, but then you pay more. So those are things to think about if they have an extended hospital stay or a life-altering event like I said, a car wreck, a broken hip, a whatever. So those are things to think about also, is that just because you're at assisted living doesn't necessarily guarantee that that's where you get to go home to after a hospital stay, unless you're at that same level of independence and physical activity. To go into long-term nursing care, fully paid for by Medicaid, they take your paycheck will go to the nursing facility, and they give you like $50 a month, basically, is what happens in Oklahoma anyway. So you can't own any property, and it can't be something that you sell to your kid the day before. I want to say that they go back 5 years. I may not be quoting that correctly, but I'm pretty sure that's what it is. You can't have like so many assets. If you're married and say if you were single, you would maybe qualify for Medicaid, but because your husband makes a certain amount, it's a combined income. So unfortunately, there's even been people that we've helped, and they've had to get basically a divorce so that they can have separate income, so that they can afford to be on Medicaid, so they can afford to get the kind of nursing care that they need. So those are just different things to just kind of keep in mind about Medicaid. Is you don't get that just because you're at a certain age. Like Medicare, you're eligible at 65, or I think by the time I get that age, it's supposed to be 67. I don't know who knows that or how they know that, but that's what I was told the other day. Mm-hmm. So anyway, and like we said, open enrollment, you have to do it. I think you have to have a life-altering event if you don't do it during open enrollment.
Yes, I think that is right.
Yeah. Which a lot of jobs are like that anyway. Mm-hmm. Also, you have to do it during the open enrollment, or you have to wait till the next open enrollment, which would be a whole year away. Another thing that I learned, a lot of people will assume that, like, if you need a walker, a wheelchair, a shower chair, a toilet riser, any kind of what we call durable medical equipment or DME equipment at home, everyone assumes, well, I have insurance, they'll pay for that, so no problem. That is not at all correct. In fact, most, even the majors like Blue Cross Blue Shield, United Health, Health Choice, Medicare, Medicaid. I think with Medicaid, you can get a wheelchair every 5 years, or maybe that's Medicare. But it's not like you get something just because you've been in the hospital. So we're even telling people, literally, to buy stuff on Amazon. It's probably one of the cheapest ways to do it, or go to a resale shop, like a thrift store, because there's
always walkers.
Yes.
And bedside commodes and different things at those stores. And that's just the truth, because just like you said, I mean, this is why we're having this conversation today. It's not a sexy conversation. It's not a shining conversation, but it's an important one to have, because you can't make assumptions with insurance.
For sure.
It's all in black and white and tiny print.
Tiny print. And I don't want to read it. No. I don't want to read it.
No.
I mean, I literally, like you had mentioned, that your parents had someone come in and kind of go through, this is the ABCs 1, 2, 3s, and this is what it covers, and this is what you need to suit your thing. And so, yeah, I mean, I'm never going to read that fine print. That's how I got trapped into my cell phone contract, right? Like, it's small print.
Exactly.
And so you end up having to stay with the same company for 2 years because you signed it and you didn't read it. But
and I think if you are like my parents' age and you're starting to go through this, don't panic about having a conversation with an insurance agent, because if they work on commission, which is in that situation what's happening, so he's just there to have a conversation, and
Correct.
Like, you're not going to have to pay him for his time there today. He makes money when you do sign up for a plan. but there's all these requirements that you have to get done. So it's not like the slinky vacuum door-to-door salesman.
Correct.
Like, he's literally just giving you the roadmap to Medicare, and then you make your choices from there.
For sure. Another thing that I did not know, because I had not dealt with this, is a lot of people assume that they have what's called hospice benefits. And hospice, unfortunately, has become kind of a dirty word, and it's a very scary word when people mention it. Which is horribly unfortunate, because they are able to help with so many things. They're able to help with medications. They can help with some of the medical equipment that you need, if it's oxygen, even hospital beds, walkers, things like that. But I feel like people assume, again, that because I have insurance or because I have Medicare, that I have hospice benefits, and that is not true. So that's something you just need to ask your insurance representative or whoever you're talking with about that, is, do you have hospice benefits? Because several of the Medicare replacements do not include that. And it's unfortunate, because it's a really great service. They are able to provide some nursing care, some nursing aid care. They're able to help with medications. They're able to help be a liaison even between your family, the patient, and even the physician's office, if there's something that they feel like, they could make a phone call for the doctor's office. And just because you're on hospice, let's say it's for heart failure or whatever, cancer, if you get something that's acute, like pneumonia or a urinary tract infection, that doesn't mean that you can't treat for those things. Just because you're on hospice doesn't mean that you don't get treatment. So anyway, all that to say is to be sure and check and see what your hospice benefits are, if you even have them. Because, then what happens is a lot of times you can't even stay in the hospital for, long-term treatment. Like if you do have cancer and but you're not going to maybe be at end of life quickly, then your family's going to have to be the ones to basically step up and take care of you at home. And it's very physically draining. It's emotionally draining. Hospice can take some of the ease off of that, do some respite care where the family can kind of have a little vacation from that 24-hour care. So just something to think about, something to ask about, because I think, again, it's easy to assume that your insurance plan is all-inclusive for everything you're ever going to need, and it's just not anymore.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I mean, gone are those days, and you and I could both have a very, we could use our ladders and have a very soapbox conversation about the state of healthcare in this country and insurance and things. But the fact of the matter is that we don't have the same insurance that we had in the 90s.
For
that
sure.
Had a lot of benefits to it. It's been hacked at, and we both have been here long enough to know that if something gets taken away, it's not coming back.
Right.
And this non-shiny conversation that we're having today is important. A, like we already talked about, of not making assumptions, but B, when you find yourself in this situation, it is a very high stress situation. It's a very emotional situation, whether you are the patient or one of your loved ones, whether it is a spouse, a parent, a sibling, onward and upward down the line. If you fall in the front lines of making medical decisions for somebody else, these are a lot of words that are coming at you that are often not in your everyday language.
For sure.
Because even if we move off of the Medicare, Medicaid kind of talk, and we just talk about private insurance, because it's open enrollment for people with their employers, they've been getting emails of you have 15 days to do this, or you have the exact same benefits, and you need to look at this and you need to look at that. And if you're like me, you're like, hell, I'm healthy, or I'm very blessed that I've not had a lot of issues. I'm not gonna go read the fine print.
Yep.
Just give me the deal and let's be done. But gosh, words like deductible, in-network, out-of-network, co-pays.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have in-network deductibles, out-of-network deductibles, and all these words get thrown around, and it's like, ack.
Right.
I don't know what that means to my wallet.
Exactly. And, something new for my employer is usually if you didn't do anything during open enrollment, you just it defaulted to whatever you had the year before. Mm-hmm. Now, some employers are changing where if you don't actively enroll, then you don't have benefits. Not just that it defaults to the last one that you had. It means so it's just more awareness. I just think this whole conversation is just about awareness.
Yes.
Certainly not trying to, it's just bringing things to the forefront of your mind so that you can plan ahead, because like you said, when you're in the middle of the crisis and it's scary as hell because your mom's in the hospital bed and she used to take care of everything, and or your dad, and you're not used to seeing your dad in a hospital gown, and it's horrible to go through that. It's very stressful. It's a lot of emotions, a lot of, like you said, medical terminology coming at you. And so if you can pre-plan some of this stuff, and that's just one less thing to worry about, really. So
or even if you're sitting there going, all right, Red and Farrells, mm-hmm. You're sounding like my financial advisor, you're sounding like my this, my that. Even if you don't ever get to that level, if you had this conversation or have listened to this conversation when you're level-headed and you're not facing that crisis, mm-hmm. that we're hoping that, our hope and our goal today is hopefully you don't face that. But when you do find yourself in that situation, you go, oh, I've heard these terms before. This makes a little more sense.
Absolutely.
And we can bring some organization and some calmness to a hot mess of a situation.
For sure. Or at least spark something in your brain to... I heard about something about hospice benefits. Do we need to talk about that? Just something that just to spark some awareness of these terms and things like that. One thing I want to touch briefly on was benefits... any that I've seen do not pay for like around-the-clock private care, like a private sitter, a private duty person. And there's, people that obviously most people want to try to keep their loved ones in their home, even if they're elderly, for as long as possible.
Sure.
As opposed to try to put them in a long-term nursing facility or skilled nursing or whatever. So they think, well, we'll just, have insurance pay for a private sitter. Does not work that way. They do charge. A lot of companies charge like a minimum hourly rate, like maybe 4 hours at a time. Mm-hmm. Some don't, some do. So it's just another thing to ask about. There's certainly a lot of help out there. But you, like I just said, you cannot assume that insurance is going to pay for it all.
Right.
So there are certainly resources. There are some places called like A Place for Mom. I know that they can kind of assess what your needs are, look at your insurance plans, ask what your income level is so that they just kind of know. And then they can also be like your agent, basically, let you know what assisted living, what skilled nursing, what home health, things like that can work with you. And they kind of go through, they're familiar with all the terms, they're familiar with what you need. And so there's just help out there. You don't have to do it all alone.
Sure.
Because it is overwhelming and intimidating, I'm sure.
Sure.
It is to me, and I'm working in this, kind of new to this field. But another thing is, if you have a loved one in the hospital, most all hospitals have either social workers or case managers. And they're a really great resource for you on helping you, at least if they don't help you with certain things like applying for Medicare or Medicaid, they can at least help tell you who to call.
Sure.
If it's Social Security disability, how long that takes, things like that. So utilize that also.
Right.
So that you're not trying to just finagle your way and not know anything.
Absolutely. So let's talk about other insurance terms that you need to know. Like if I'm sitting at my desk during open enrollment with my employer and I've got to go through my benefits, right? I'm already overwhelmed mm-hmm. because we're going to only talk about our health insurance today, but if I'm sitting there going through most benefits, I've got to go make decisions not only about my health care, but my vision, my dental, my short-term disability, my long-term disability, my this, my that, my 401k, my whatever. And hell, I don't know what these terms are. Or I think I know what these terms are, but not really. Or I think that's what they are, and they mean something different in this land.
Yeah. I would advise everyone to utilize your HR person for one thing. That's what they do. That's their specialty. They went to school for that. They should be able to walk you through a lot of that. But a couple of things like in-network, out-of-network. What does that mean? It usually means that there's a preferred provider, which is a physician group or even physical therapy locations or things like that, that they have some kind of contract with that basically it's if you utilize those providers, those physicians, that it's going to cost you less than if you go outside that network. Now, if you're got your family physician and he's been your doctor since you were 7 and then this is the only guy you'll ever go listen to and it's worth it for you to pay out of network, then pay out of network. It's just what you need to do. I was, go to the doctor once a year for a well woman checkup. I'm not on any medications. I don't have blood pressure issues. I don't go see the family physician. If I get a sore throat, I go to the walk-in clinic and pay $70 because now several insurance companies, the deductibles are so high. It might be $1,500. It might be $3,000. And some insurances won't even pay, you don't even get a copay until you meet your deductible. Well, at my previous employer, my deductible alone was $3,000. So all my medications, none of that did I get a break on because you have to meet your deductible before they even start paying for your medications or your family physician appointments or anything like that. So for me, not advising anyone how to do that, but I would just, if I got sick, I usually went into a walk-in clinic and paid my $50 or $70 and that was it. So you can still, a lot of times take that off on your taxes. There's just, ask your tax guy. But
I think within that situation, and something that needs to be mentioned is looking at the short term versus the long term.
Sure.
So if you have a high deductible, and depending upon your health status, if you're pretty healthy,
right,
it may be cheaper for you in the long run to utilize a cash pay clinic, a concierge clinic, somebody that doesn't bill insurance.
Right.
And you're like, well, Farrell's, I've got insurance. They should pay for stuff. They don't. Like, we're here to tell you that. And it may be, even if you have something happen, like you need physical therapy services or occupational therapy services for a minute, it may still be cheaper in the long run to utilize somebody that is cash pay versus your insurance.
Right.
Because you may be getting more quality, more bang for your buck at a lower rate, even though you have to pay more of it up front, than trying to meet your deductible. In the event that you do have a lot of medical things happen in a year and you do meet your deductible, and then here we're staring at the end of the year, it's towards the end of November 2019 right now, then something else comes up. It's cheaper for you to get that done while your deductible's met because your insurance company is going to kick in and pay for those services. But with that being said, I wanted to kind of step back just a second ago of what you said about in-network and out-of-network. Because I think if you're not in the medical community, out-of-network means I can't go see that person because they are out. The word out means...
sounds exclusive, kind of.
Very exclusive.
And that's not what that is. It's just going to cost you a little more to do it.
So it may be if a provider's in network, that insurance company covers them 80-20, Versus if I choose to use an out-of-network provider, it's at a 70-30.
Correct.
So then I end up paying more. But it's, it also, I wanted to make that very clear on the in-network versus out-of-network, but I also want to make it very clear that it is still patient choice.
Absolutely.
That you have a choice in what provider you see. You need to be aware of where they stand with your insurance company, because that will affect your pocketbook. But it is still your choice. So that's where all this weighing of benefits of financial versus quality of care versus being comfortable with your provider, different things like that come into play.
For sure. And your doctor might be in network. However, where they practice, like say they practice at a surgery center versus a hospital. That's another thing to ask if you had to have a surgery. That the surgery center may not be, quote, in network, and the hospital might be. So you need to ask, your insurance company. You need to ask the billing department for your physician. Is the surgery center in network, out of network? Is it cheaper for you to have it at the hospital? Those are all things that just need to be asked. Still your choice, obviously. But, it might be 80-20 versus 60-40.
Sure.
So,
yeah.
That's another thing is just because your doctor's in network doesn't guarantee that where they do surgery is, quote, in network either.
Well, even on top of that, doesn't guarantee that the anesthesiologist is in your network or out of your network. And I can tell you one thing, when you're looking at surgery, you're not thinking about the anesthesiologist.
Correct.
You're talking to your surgeon face-to-face on what X, Y, and Z are going to happen to me. Because when you're in the surgical suite, you don't know who's in there and who's not, because you're the one that's knocked out.
Well, and even your pre-op lab, because if you have that drawn at the hospital, that might be in network. If you go to this diagnostic laboratory place or downstairs at the doctor's office, that may not be. So it's just all things to ask, because you don't want to be hit with something that you're not expecting and you think you had great insurance coverage, and then you get this whopping bill that's quite a bit more than what you thought, and it's just simply because you could have had the choice to have it somewhere else. So it's all questions to ask. It's just all about awareness.
And we want to urge you to ask questions, and don't think you are putting somebody out. Because we want, the reason why we're doing this non-shining conversation today is we want you to be more well-informed consumer, because healthcare still has to be a business. We're in the business of helping people, but there's still a financial aspect to it. And we want you to be your own advocate, because if you're not looking out for yourself or your loved one, that you are the first line of defense of their care and asking the questions and what is this and the that. I think patients, no matter who you are, if you are not around the medical field, oftentimes you don't want to bother somebody. They're really busy. Or I feel stupid about asking that, or I don't even, and a lot of what we've talked about today, I don't even know that I need to ask a question about that.
You don't know what you don't know.
You don't.
Yeah.
You don't. And so we want you to be, because you have to be an advocate, because of the way the healthcare environment is from a provider standpoint. It can be a very high-stress job. There are, we're talking about the finances of healthcare today. From a flip side, providers have a productivity standpoint that they have to meet in different numbers. And people can get swept up in the stress of that, and can often forget that it's somebody's mom.
Correct.
It's somebody's grandfather.
Right.
It's somebody's loved one that we're talking about here.
And the doctors didn't go to med school and do all the work they did to worry about your insurance coverage.
They have no idea.
They have no idea. That's not what they want to focus on. They want to get in there. They want to diagnose you. They want to do surgery if that's what they need. They want to figure out how to fix you. So you have to ask. You have to talk to their billing department. You have to talk to, like I said, maybe a case manager or your own HR department if you're signing up for things, because the doctors, they don't know. They don't know. You can't keep up with it. It changes every year of who covers what, and they used to be in network and now they're not, and things like that. So you have to watch out for you on that. And, even when a doctor orders physical therapy, say, or an MRI, because there's so many freestanding MRI clinics, that doesn't necessarily mean, like I said, just because your doctor's in network doesn't mean that everything they recommend or order is in network. The testing, the diagnostics, the surgery, location, things like that. So it's not fun. It's not sexy, like you said, but you need to know. It's just a need to know.
Well, and within going to an MRI facility or going to physical therapy, if you're going to outpatient physical therapy, things like that. Gosh, I've had this conversation for years. You don't have to go where your doctor says.
Correct. For sure.
Like, you have a practitioner that you're comfortable with. You have a physical therapist that you have dealt with for years, and you get a new surgeon, and they're like, well, I want you to go down the street to this clinic. No, you have a choice to go back to the provider that you want. And that's why we're hoping we educate you today, because within the getting more financial savvy about your health care, you can weigh in on, is that the best fit for you? I want to go back to my physical therapist. I know that is the most financially feasible thing for me to do, and this, that, and the other. Because I've had patients return to me and go, gosh, Farley, I really wish I'd been able to see you for this problem I had 6 months ago. And I'm being like, well, you could have.
Right.
And they look at me and they're like, no, my doctor said I had to go here. No, you have a choice in your providers. There's a lot of factors into that, like we talked about, but you still have a choice.
Yep.
So ask questions, move things around, different things like that, because you have to be your own advocate.
For sure. Yeah. Because that's just not what the doctors, that's just not their focus. Their focus is your health, how to get you well. And it's not their fault. It's just not what their focus is. So you have to be your own advocate, like you said. So anyway, hopefully some of these things will be helpful. I hope it makes people aware. It's certainly, like I said, something, and I've been in this business, I've been a nurse for over 25 years, I think.
Right.
And I'm literally just learning all this and how impactful it is for your care. It impacts the type of care you get, what kind of insurance you have, if it's covered, if it's not, what can you do without. It's just, I was very, I guess, naive or just ignorant on that fact. I just didn't know because I hadn't been around it. So if we can help anybody, make a educated choice about things, it's just, I hope that we can help some people make some good choices. Then that's all we want to do.
Yep.
Yeah.
Then this conversation served its purpose for today.
Without question.
So thanks for having this chat, even if it was in one of our non-shiny chats.
I'll come back for shiny chats.
Okay. Yes.
We'll do something shiny sometime.
Please do.
Yeah.
Yes. So thank you for coming on today.
Thank you for having me. Yeah. I hope we helped some people.
Yes. So if you've enjoyed this conversation, or even if you've just learned something from it, may not have been super enjoyable, but hopefully we were able to break things down for you in a helpful way, then, give us a shout, share this. The best thing you can do is share this with somebody that needs to know it, and keep moving the conversation forward. So thanks, as always, for tuning in and having a chat with us today. And as always, I will see you down the road. Thank you for listening to the Writer's Edge podcast today. We appreciate your time and attention. Thank you for always helping us move the conversation forward. If you liked today's podcast, please help us keep the conversations going by subscribing to this podcast and consider leaving us a review so others can find us and join in on the conversations. You can also find more information by checking us out on our social media channels, including Facebook at Writer's Edge Therapy and Wellness, Instagram at Writer's Edge Therapy, and our website, www.writersedgetherapy.com. It is there that you can book a consult for either you or your horse. Thank you, and as always, we will see you down the road.